This is Abe Friedtanzer from Awards Buzz, and I'm very excited to be speaking with Jen D'Angelo about Quiz Lady. How are you, Jen?
I'm great. How are you?
Good, good.
We're
It's fun
wearing
to
matching shirts. I feel like we have to call that out.
That's great. Yes, I think mine's blue. Yours seems a little green, but they definitely yes.
Oh, whoa. No, this is blue.
Oh, interesting. Okay, never
Yeah.
mind. Okay. Um, so I got to see Quiz Lady at AFI Fest in a theater with a lot of people last year, which was really, really cool. And I want to hear all about the genesis of this project and just where everything started.
Yeah, I mean, it's so wild. Quiz Lady started as a spec script that I wrote. So I was working in TV. I knew that I wanted to get into features. I had written one feature sample that was really crazy. It was basically like a Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead, but for the movie Titanic. And so that had been passed around, and I had had like a few meetings off of that, but that movie was obviously like completely unproducible. So I was like, I'm going to write a spec that, it can be made. It probably won't be made, but at the very least, it'll just be something new, like a different budget size and a good sample of my comedic voice. And so I started writing it. At a certain point, I got stuck and I was sort of like, should I keep writing this or should I, be putting my creative energy into coming up with, my take on Pogs, whatever IP is the hot IP in the moment. Um, but I talked to my manager and she was like, "You're really excited about this idea. You've been really enjoying working on it. Like, you're right. It probably won't get made, but if we get two incredible actors attached, who knows what'll happen." So I kept writing, I finished it, and then Aquafina was the first person we sent it to. And then when she attached, it just became very real very quickly. And that was just the beginning of like this incredible parade of people joining the project.
Great. Are you a quiz show enthusiast yourself?
I am. So it's based on my brother, who is like a trivia master. Like he's a genius. He remembers every fact he's ever read or seen. And I love Jeopardy also. And I would like grow up sort of just like watching him play along with the TV and learning. So yeah, I'm like a big trivia whiz. And then in COVID, I did two Zoom trivia nights for my friends where I just was like, I'm gonna make my own quiz, and it was really fun.
I think one of the things that I remember most, and I've seen other like awards people get excited about, is the where she just recites all of the best picture winners and like doesn't even if after she's ready to stop just keeps going and that people are like this is what my friends think I'm like that this is just how I'm into movies. Did that come from like is that your brother also?
That's very much me. So I, in college, I became obsessed with the website Sporcle. I don't know if you're familiar.
I just downloaded the new app because I like to play it like on a plane when I'm landing, do like the
Oh,
countries quiz,
smart.
like oh, Sporkle's great.
Yeah. Wait, do you do countries of the world?
Oh, always. I do them alphabetical, reverse alphabetical. It's fun.
Oh my gosh, amazing. Yeah, I haven't done countries of the world in a while, so I'm sure I'll be rusty, but I was really proud of myself and I was like, I'm acing this pretty regularly. But yeah, I became obsessed with Sporkle and I would do the AFI top 100 all the time. And that was one where, yeah, I basically got it down pat. So I always knew the 100 movies, but I was trying to challenge myself. So I was like, I'm going to do them in order. And I just remember so clearly, I was, it was a quarter at college where I was taking three screenwriting classes. So I was writing three movies at once. And I remember at the time being like, this was a big mistake. And now that's my whole life. But I was like on deadline. I was really behind, and I was just like on Sporkle, just doing the AFI Top 100 quiz. And I just remember being like, God, if only there was a game show where like I could just blow everyone away by the fact that I could do this in order. Like, and so that has sort of just always been in my head. And so yeah, when I was writing the drug sequence of just like what would be like Anne's just id completely let loose. And I immediately went back to that Sporkle feeling of just wanting to wow everyone with my brilliance.
I appreciate that. I remember watching, I don't even remember what it was, but some quiz show, and they were like, name all the members of the ensemble of Crash. And it was like you had to get down to like Jennifer Esposito, like people who are like very, very minor roles, and the person there couldn't do it. I was like, you really should have a movie person doing this kind of thing.
Yes.
But I think this one is not. I mean, she knows that, but this is a lot more of just sort of general knowledge trivia, which is harder, I think.
Totally. I know that's what I really love about the character of Anne too. It's like there's something so sad but also interesting and heartwarming about, the idea that like she's not even really into movies, but she just loves trivia that much. So it's like that's why she knows all this. Whereas I'm like, such a movie nerd that I'm just like, of course everyone should know this.
I think Sandra Oh was perfectly cast, but also not necessarily what I would have expected from her, because I think that she's done sort of not necessarily a sloppy character, but someone who like doesn't fully have her life together. And this was a bit more of a departure. Did you have her in mind when you were writing this?
No, so I mean, I wrote this completely sort of like blank slate for the two actors because I was just kind of like, whoever, there's so many incredible pairings that we could get. And so I really want to just sort of like lay down the groundwork, get two actors, and then once we have them, like we dive into the script together and sort of find these characters together. And so that was a really amazing process after we had Sandra and Aquafina and then our director, Jessica Yu, attached. Um, Jessica and Sandra were both working in London at the time, and they had the same week off from filming. They were on different projects. And so it was just this very serendipitous moment. And so Aquafina and I flew out to London, and the four of us just had a whole, like, basically like a theater workshop for a week where we just went through the script and we talked about families and, these characters and sort of what we wanted to see from them and how to make them feel like authentically Asian American and what is their backstory. And so it was such an incredible gift. I was so grateful to have that. And that was so incredible to work with Sandra during that period because she was so excited to dive into this character that is just like an absolute mess. And she was really excited to kind of like get really physical with it. Like she was really working on that performance so hard. And it was just so delightful and joyful to watch because she's incredible. She's such a pro.
Was there an inspiration for Will Ferrell's character and those bow ties?
So so originally the script was written for Jeopardy. Like I just straight up wrote it as Jeopardy. And then when Alex Trebek passed away, which was obviously a tragedy and so sad, we were sort of like, what do we do with this? And I rewrote it to be sort of in the era of when they were trying hosts out, which was really interesting to see sort of how that changed the story. And sort of what that meant for Anne. Um, and then at a very pivotal moment, we were told that we were not going to be able to get the Jeopardy rights. So I very quickly was like, okay, this has always been in the back of my head that we might have to change it from Jeopardy into a fictional game show. And so the thing that I had been most excited about for doing that was coming up with this completely new host character because I was just like, it would be so incredible to really build up someone that has that sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Not patriarchal, but something fatherly vibe that Alex Trebek really had.
Eternal, I think.
Paternal, yes. Thank you. Um, and yeah, just someone that we feel like so comfortable with and that we really love. And it was then also really fun to sort of try to do the opposite of Alex Trebek because Alex Trebek, I love him so much. He's an icon. But something that was so funny about him was that he was sometimes like very cold. And, you really wanted to like impress him. And he really seemed like he knew all the answers to these questions and that he would be disappointed in you if you didn't. Like he had this, this real presence. And so it was really fun to be like, okay, we're going to do the opposite. Like we want to do this guy who's just like, just so thrilled to be there. He loves talking to people. Because that was my other favorite thing. I watched Jeopardy a lot, obviously. And that was always my favorite thing when Alex was talking to the contestants and he was just always sort of like, okay, and moving on. Like he just didn't really engage. And so it was really fun to just be like, we want a host that's just like this people person who doesn't know the answers to these questions and doesn't pretend to, and is just so happy to be there. And the bow tie thing was just a way to sort of be like, this is a visual representation of the history of this show. And so by giving him, this little quirk, and then we really fell in love with this idea that it's sort of like it's like being backstage at SNL, like you just feel the history of the show. And so the bow ties were a visual representation of that. And then the best part of all was that Will Ferrell, who had been attached as a producer for, the entire development process, he came on, he and Gloria Sanchez, his company came on right after Aquafina did. And so he'd been involved for so long, and he one day was just like, I think I want to play this role. I really love game shows and I think I want to do this. And that was the best news I've gotten in my whole life.
There's also somebody who's not very happy to be there, and that's Holland Taylor's character. And it's so fun to see her. Is she based on somebody, and what was it like to have her attached?
She is not based on anyone. I just was sort of like, what's a funny, kind of pseudo best friend for Anne? And it's just her sort of curmudgeonly neighbor who's a bit of a ghost of Christmas yet to come. Um, and yeah, I remember so clearly. It unfortunately didn't make it into the cut, because it was too silly of a joke. But there was a joke that I wrote in the script that I truly only put in there because I was like, this makes me laugh. Because when I was writing the script for the first time, it was just all, no holds barred, like whatever idea you think is fun and delightful, like it goes in and then we figure it out. And so I put in this thing where she is really mad at Anne, because Anne keeps getting packages delivered and she calls UPS ups, and Anne corrects her, and Francine is just like, can't be bothered to be corrected. And I just remember on the day being like, Holland Taylor is saying this extremely stupid line. And of course, like nailing it. And it was just so delightful. I mean, I'm such a huge fan of hers and she's so incredible. And when she wanted to come do this, I really could not believe my luck, because she was just the perfect Francine. She was amazing.
You find the experience of writing a feature rather than all the TV that you've done to be especially challenging, rewarding? Any takeaways from it?
Yes to both, challenging and rewarding. I mean, I really love being able to tell a contained story and then also like really get into these characters and explore them so deeply. That I think that's what's really hard in TV is just like the character arc is so much more protracted and it's so much longer. And so, you're doing all this character work that is really fun and really rewarding, but then in the back of your mind, you're always like, what if my show gets canceled tomorrow? And so then you're trying to front load stuff. So it's all, TV is its own sort of puzzle, but I also really love TV because it's more collaborative and you're in a writer's room. If the studio hasn't slashed your writer's budget. But yeah, it's such an interesting um difference between the two, but I really love them both and they're challenging in their own ways.
Did you know what was going to happen with this film in terms of heading to Hulu rather than to theaters, and how did you feel about that?
So it was always headed to Hulu. There was always a hope that we could sort of like charm our way into theaters. And look, I mean, I was so happy that it was getting made. I couldn't believe that it was getting made, and I'm so grateful that it got made. So I can't be too sad that it went straight to streaming, but at the same time, I'm such a movie lover, and I really believe that movies, especially comedies, have to be seen on the big screen, like with an audience of strangers. Like that's the most beautiful sort of experience that you can have is just going to see a movie and loving it with a crowd of people who also love it. And so I was really, sad that we weren't going to have that, but I was really grateful that we were able to, we had two test screenings at the Burbank AMC, and so that was really fun because it felt like seeing it in a big crowd and it played really well. And then I unfortunately couldn't go to any of our festival screenings because we were still on strike. But I was really glad that, we got the AFI one, we got TIFF, we played at the Hamptons, like we had a bunch of experiences for people or opportunities for people to see it on the big screen, which I was so happy about.
and you recently won a WGA award for the script, which is great. And I was looking as a trivia enthusiast, noting that you actually beat yourself for the
Yeah.
award. What was that experience like, and what can you share about the experience of Totally Killer?
I mean, I love Totally Killer so much, and it was sort of completely the opposite of Quiz Lady, where that project was like very much going. And Nanachka Khan, who directed it, she's a friend of mine. I worked for her on Young Rock on NBC. And I love Nach. She's incredible. She and I have always been talking about like we love movies, we love horror movies. And so when she attached that project, she was like, "Would you want to do a rewrite of this script that's like a very kind of high concept horror comedy that's basically Back to the Future with a serial killer?" And I was like, "Yes, I would absolutely love to come and work on that." So that I just sort of like popped in. I did the rewrite with Notch. I was so excited about it. I was just like, this movie is going to be so fun. And then unfortunately, they shot at the exact same time as Quiz Lady, so I couldn't go on set, which was a bummer because it would have been so fun. Um, and so that I just sort of had to like go off of, and then I came back to when at the time when they were showing cuts to like friends and family and stuff. So it was so fun to just be like, oh, I was not in the weeds on Totally Killer at all. And I get to come back in with fresh eyes and just be like so delighted by how wonderful the whole cast is and by how great it turned out. And with Quiz Lady, meanwhile, I'm like on set every day, like, melting in the New Orleans heat. So it was just two completely different experiences. But I was so proud of both movies. And so I was so, sort of grateful and honored to see them both being recognized. And yes, I was like, I can't look up the trivia on myself, but I am a little bit curious to see how many people have been nominated against themselves at the WGAs.
I think I would say not for WGAs, but John Williams has definitely beat himself a number of times, and how
Oh
like it's
yeah.
interesting. That's the next Sporcle quiz for you. It's the best original score Oscar nominees. It's a lot of stuff, but it's definitely a good one to pursue.
Oh my gosh, wait, that's a really good one. I also love scores. I in my middle school yearbook, it literally is like, what's my favorite music? And I said movie soundtracks, which now I know I meant movie scores. I didn't mean soundtracks. But yeah, I love scores. They're amazing.
Well, what question I like to ask everybody here at Award Buzz is one I think is especially well suited for you. Is there another project or writer or score that you think is particularly awards worthy this Emmy season?
Oh wow. Oh my gosh, the Emmys. I'm like, what's TV? Um, I mean, I love the other two. I don't even know if they're eligible for this Emmy season. They might have ended too
I
soon.
I don't think so. I think they were nominated last year, and that was the last one. I'd have to double check, but that's
Okay.
an underappreciated gem, certainly.
Exactly. I'm just like, yeah, sure. Give them a retroactive Emmy, even if they're off the air. They were so, so great and so funny. Also, I'm like, Richard Kind, give him a guest star Emmy for anything he ever does. He's so funny in that show. He's funny everywhere. So yeah.
What's next for you?
So I am really excited now that I've spent so much time on set. I'm really excited to move into directing. That's sort of always been the goal, and I feel so fortunate that I've been able to work with such amazing directors and just really learn so much. Like I was on set for all of Hocus Pocus. I was on set for this movie called The Tomorrow War, which was like a $200 million like sci-fi movie, which was crazy. So I've worked on, many different sizes. And so I'm so excited to sort of take that next step into another level of storytelling. So I'm working on an original script that's sort of like a low budget horror comedy that I hope to direct very soon.
Looks much like the Tomorrow War version of Totally Killer. That's what your debut is going to be
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
on a $200 budget, not 200 million.
Yeah. I mean, even 200, I'm like, that'd be nice.
Okay. Well, awesome, Jen. I wish you plenty of luck. Thank you so much for talking to me today, and I just want to go play Sporcle now.
I know, I'm definitely going straight there. So thank you so much for reminding me of that.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Thank you.